Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unnext News Radio podcast, your news source for all things unexplained. And now, here's your host for the Unnext News podcast, Margie K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KUNX Digital Broadcasting Network, otherwise known as the X, and Unnext News. I'm your host, Margie K. We're here every Friday night at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, but you can watch the show on YouTube, on the Unnext Network channel, or listen to the show archives anytime at unnextnetwork.com. I'd like to remind you to get a copy of my latest book, Winged Aliens, a theory that winged cryptids are aliens and or interdimensional beings. And this is available at Amazon.com or my website, margiek.com. I'd like to remind you to register now for the X Conference on Friday, May 13th and Saturday, May 14th, 2022. This is a virtual conference on Zoom, so you can stay home and attend a great conference with top speakers, including Whitley Strieber, Jimmy Church, Micah Hanks, Ray Hernandez, and many more. We're even hosting a live paranormal investigation with Riverside Iowa Paranormal. The conference theme is Into the Rabbit Hole, and you know what that means. Once you go in, you can't get out. Registration is now open at unnextnetwork.com. My special guest this evening is Michelle Roos. She's a world-renowned psychic and trance medium, ordained minister, demonologist, exorcist. She does channeling. She's a spiritual healer, remote viewer, and the founder of Riverside Iowa Paranormal. She is also going to be hosting an event, which is happening on Friday, May 13th for the X-Con, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. She has spent multiple years in the paranormal field. She has a Doctor of Metaphysics degree, a Doctor of Divinity degree, and a degree in Spiritual Warfare and Paranormal Ministry. Michelle holds the distinction of being the first woman listed on the Worldwide Society of Exorcists and studied at the Universal Church Ministry. As the founder of Riverside Iowa Paranormal, Michelle uses her abilities to assist on paranormal cases, both locally and across the globe. She's been called in to assist on dark cases where the worst types of energy and spirits have been present. Welcome to the program, Michelle.
Well, thank you. I am actually very honored to be here. I know we had a little time to chit chat, so now I'm kind of in awe also. So thank you for having me on your show.
Well, this is great because I found somebody else who does kind of the same things that I do, and we have some of the same interests. And so let's just get right into it and talk about, how did you get interested in paranormal to start with?
Well, it actually started like, I guess, everybody else's. I was a young child, and a lot of my imaginary friends, as you could say, they used to scare me. They weren't like, the little boys and girls everyone talks about. I would always see them like how they died. So, they were like bloody or missing limbs and things. And I didn't know what to do with that. And trying to speak about it around the family, it was kind of like, no, those are tall tales. You don't want to speak about all that. And I kept trying to suppress it and put it away, thinking they were just nightmares. Maybe, I was going crazy, had no clue. It stopped for a little bit and then it would come back and then it would stop. And finally, I had to make a decision. What am I going to do with this? How am I going to embrace it? Because it's not going away. I have to stop being scared. And then started finding out, there's probably other people out there like me or having these issues. So then that's when I started looking at more of the darker side, because when I say I speak for the spirits, I actually do speak for them. I tell the truths that a lot of other people don't want to hear. They will tell me how they passed and if somebody was involved or why they were upset and why they did it. And just started wrapping around to it. And then that's how I started going into the demonology and looking at the darker side of things, because a lot of the negative energy I was seeing was portraying itself as monsters, demons, whatever anybody called them. And I needed to have an understanding of that. So I was able to cope personally, and then I was able to take it out there and continue from there.
Well, when you are dealing with a very negative entity, what do you do beforehand to prepare yourself?
I make sure I'm very humble before I go. I never go in with an ego thinking that I'm about to take down, everything. I go in prepared knowing that that could be a lost battle on my side. So I call in, I call in my angels, I call in ancestors, I call in gods and goddesses. I make sure when I walk in, I have an army behind me, and my intentions are very true. Everybody in their life, just like me, even as children, lied, stealed, did all sorts of things. And I know that my convictions are real, and I put those out there. But I make sure when I go in there, this is what you're getting. This is who I am. And that's how I start the battle.
Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with a difficult case, how do you know that the dark entity has left the place?
One, for me, I can see it. But two, I can also feel a shift where I'm working. Especially when it's in a home, because a lot of times when you're working with a lot of negative, when you walk into that home, it's like you can cut it with a knife. So when people make that comment, you can feel the tensions and everything. You can cut it with a knife. It's an actual true statement.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dark in there that, it could be 12 o'clock outside, sun is shining, but you walk in someone's home, even with all the windows open, and it looks like it's midnight. A lot of it will show itself like, a little girl or a little boy or a grandmother. And you can honestly tell that it's not real. So when I can see all that moved out, then it does. And it is a true statement. Things do light up. Sometimes there is a smell of almost like the roses or flowers or something. It's almost like that smell of love. And that's kind of how I know. These cases are not a one and done. It doesn't mean they can't come back a couple times, because you're not just working with that entity. You're working with a family that you're going to have to rebuild, because
Yes.
they lived in this one way this whole time. And if they continue, it can invite it back in. So
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't understand that you can't just go in there and say, because I'm going to tell you, sage doesn't work on everything, and if you're working with negative, sage doesn't work. You're just going to really, really tick it off. And now you're actually going to, make it worse for the family. So now you're having to deal with the family to rebuild itself. And that's where the counseling comes in. And kind of letting them know you have a life, and now this is where you need to go.
Do you ever have a difficult time sort of retraining people and letting them know that some of their behaviors are actually causing the problem?
Yes. One thing I've noticed with people in general is having to look at themselves in the mirror and know that they can love themselves, and that what they, portray out is actually going to be something that feeds into that negative.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have so much disarray, around in the world, or just a day-to-day thing with people, when it comes to, you think about it, paying bills or doing things in kids, especially teenagers, going through different changes of their body, it's hard to get them to realize you can make a shift, because we are creatures of habit. And if we continue down that same thing, whether we know it's wrong, we still continue to do that same thing over and over, because it's easier than looking and saying, I need to do a change.
Now, this might seem very strange, but I'm seeing something next to you right now, and it's just been driving me a little bit nuts.
It's okay, because you're probably seeing something that everybody sees.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a very strong presence, and it's there with you all the time. Is that
Mhm.
true?
That is very true.
Okay. I feel that this is a protector for you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I
And
haven't
I
seen
love
that
that
with
you
anyone
said it.
else.
I love that you said that, because so many people say it, and sometimes it'll show itself a little more, like a hooded person. And it's kind of, we had a discussion about it, because I feel like it walks both sides with me. And so
Mhm.
it kind of keeps me balanced where I need to be.
Yeah, it's not afraid of anything.
No.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Good to know. Uh,
I'm glad he's there.
yeah. We were talking before we came on the air about your trance channeling.
Yes.
And that's something that I actually did not believe that people could do it. I'd seen other people do it, and I thought, oh, this could be fake. So it probably is fake. Until one day when an entity walked into me with permission and spoke in an ancient Native American tongue, which was then recorded. And so I'm wondering, how did you find out that you could do this, and when was the first time it happened, and how does that work for you?
Well, I gotta honestly say, to be honest, I got jumped first. So
Mm,
before it was a channel, because I didn't realize that's what I did, because I put a boundary around me. You can only come so far. But I was so in depth in this that it came through and it started speaking through me. And it was in a language that no one knew. And then it jumped out. So at some point, I must have shoved it out without realizing. And I'm like, wait a minute. I could feel it while it was inside me, but I had no control over it. And then I'm like, I'm going to try this and see what happened. And I was actually working a case that it was actually, was trying to find a child. That's what it was. And I was trying to tap into the child, but being an adult, the child wasn't wanting to speak. So I was allowing the child to speak through me. And I said, it's okay to like come to my lap. And that's when that child came into me. And I was able to start talking and getting what needed to be done on recording. And so I knew I was able to start controlling it because I was allowing it, but I knew how long to be able to kick it out so it doesn't take completely over.
do you remember what happens during a trance channeling session?
I do not. And I know a lot of people say they do, but when I end up giving myself and we're trying to find something out, I do not remember it. So I always make sure somebody's recording or doing, with a recorder, with a videotape, because when I open myself up, a lot of people don't understand. People who channel, we open ourselves up like a portal. So we end up like taking our insides out. So we're like this big globe of light. And when we're allowing them in, it's like we're a different being, almost like an astral projection. You're sitting next to it, you see it, but you're not comprehending what's going on. And and that's why when some people said, well, yeah, I remember doing this and I remember doing this, and I'm like, well, am I odd? Am I doing this wrong? Because when I allow them to use me, they're using my shell and helping. I see it from the outside, but I don't remember what they're doing until after I see it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I did that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's like your consciousness takes a step outside and lets
yes.
this other consciousness come through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I do have a clip of one
Okay.
of your sessions, and I'll go ahead and play that, and then you can explain what it
Okay.
was. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry, that's not it. This is the one.
Doing. This is what you asked for. Welcome back. So here we are. This is what you wanted. You keep calling upon all, calling upon on, and when we show up, you forsake us just like he did. Are you seeing?
Okay, what was that all about?
So we were part of the world's largest ghost hunt. And myself and Catherine were put in charge of trying to, with the metaphysical group, opening all the portals. And there are a couple portals around that we decided we wanted to sit inside the portal to see what we could do if we channeled. So in other words, just going pretty much inside out. This portal is actually at the Haunted Castle House. It's in Brumley, Missouri. And it's in this little walk-through like closet. And I always seen it swirling. And I'm like, well, that's where I'm going to sit. And so when I went in there, I first called on my guides and everything for my protection. But I opened myself up to whatever wanted to come in and speak. And, you know, like we all know, if you have good, you have evil, you know, bad, good, and it for the balance. So I was getting a little bit of everything coming through. And from what I'm understanding, the people who did see it during the live and everything, I guess my face did morph a little bit and stuff like that. And yeah, that was pretty nasty. I could say I actually, and I'm not sure when you channel if it happens, but when I do it a lot, I get bruises. And I always get one bruise like right here, like something's holding on to me. It's fingerprints.
Oh,
Like
wow.
it pulls me out. And so when I know I'm deep into it, I end up with bruises everywhere. So
Oh, no, that
yeah,
doesn't happen to me. I'm glad it doesn't.
we got to hang out.
Yeah.
We got to hang out.
We definitely have to hang out. Okay. Now, you have done a lot of investigations around the country. How many investigations do you think you've completed?
Oh my gosh. It's been over 100. I don't know the exact amount. I mean, we've done different locations, but on the private sector, I would probably have to look in my files, but I know way over 500. I would put that way.
Okay. Here's another video. We talked about this earlier. And why don't you give us the, just kind of tell everybody where you were at the time. It's the one I showed earlier.
Was that in the hallway?
No, in Gettysburg.
In Gettysburg. Okay, so
Yeah.
we were in Gettysburg, and this was right about the area where, you know, they were had the YouTube of where the soldier walked in and out. And so we were close by it, and I'm like, I want to see what we get. So I'm standing by that cannon, and I am seeing things on the other side of the rocks. I see soldiers and different things, and I'm speaking. But my tech guy always teases that I forget to hit the record button, because when I start seeing things, I think everybody can see it. And so I forget. So I was kind of being a little snooty at the same time, like one by the cannon, you know, so he would hear it when he started doing the evidence. And we end up getting an amazing EVP. I end up talking to a couple of the historians for Gettysburg, because at the end, you're going to hear something, and found out that was something that the soldiers actually did in Gettysburg.
Okay, here we go.
Doing the backside view from where the cannons were. Loading up and firing.
Wow, I heard several calls there.
Yes.
Is that part of it?
Yes. So
Wow.
what happened was I was talking about the cannons, and if everybody heard it, it said fire. And then at the back end, you start hearing it. They called it the war cries. And so before they started charging and doing things, that's what they would do. And I couldn't ever figure out what it was. And I'm like, because we were by ourselves. And so when they listened to it, they're like, you actually caught the war cries of the soldiers from Gettysburg. So yeah, the only time I hit record on my recorder, I was like, yes.
That's amazing. I've heard, I haven't had a chance to get to Gettysburg yet, but every paranormal group that's gone out there has gotten evidence. So it must be very active.
Oh, it is. It is. And you have to remember, I mean, when we talk about energy sources and things, they had said that the grounds all over Gettysburg was so full of blood that it was like rivers. And so that starts absorbing into the ground. And, I always was like, well, it has to be in the bushes and the trees. And then just found out, I think a year ago, they had looked at some of the old trees, and the veins in the trees, when they cut them down, had the blood going through it. So as they were growing, what was absorbed in the ground. So anywhere you go in Gettysburg, I mean, there's a lot of residual, but especially if somebody with abilities, or even being a little bit, I don't think you even would have to be sensitive to do it. You get on that battlefield anywhere and it just takes over you. And it's almost like you're walking back in time. So it is an amazing place. I did a lot of crying. That was for sure. A lot of crying. Yeah.
Do you pick up the emotions of the deceased people when you do investigations?
Yes. I can normally get in there, a lot of times it's a lot of the sadness or the anger of not speaking out, things like that. When you go to a place where a woman has been really abused and stuff, I can feel their pain, what they went through, but then I can tell you where they have gotten hit, what I see, if they were strangled, different things. I get a lot more of that when I work a case that has to do with suicide. Those are actually pretty tough on me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't like to work those. Let me show this clip right here, and then I'll let you explain it.
No, I mean, like, I'm always very drawn to this room when I come here.
Okay. But she doesn't like you in there.
I know, that's why I'm a little upset.
Well, she's kind of like you're in her space, and shame on you, you young little And this is my room. Can you maybe step out of it, please? You don't get something going on. Oh, she's really upset. She is very upset. You disrespect it. Shame, shame, shame. And she's pointing her finger at you like this. How dare you?
I'm hurt.
You're okay, honey. Just let her talk. You're hurt. You were in her room. She went back in the room like...
I thought we were good. I guess not.
I know. You can come and visit, but don't stay in there too long. She keeps fixing her hair, and she's putting on like lipstick, but she's missing her lips.
Oh.
You know what I mean? She's putting it on so it's going around. She wants to be beautiful. So I keep getting that. So she's got like her hair all disheveled a little bit, but she thinks it's all back and looks pretty.
It should be.
So you can come and visit her, but don't stay too long, is what she's saying. She wants to see how beautiful she is. So I'm going to have you go into the room with me, and we're going to ask her, Devin, can you go in the room? I want you to apologize to her and tell her that you think she's beautiful, and that's why you're drawn to her.
That is why I'm drawn here. It's a pretty room. Pretty pink room for a beautiful little lady. And I apologize for encroaching. I was drawn to you. Because I really like you. I really like this room. So I'm sorry. I'll come and visit, but I won't stay too long. I hope that's okay.
So where was that, and what was that about?
Well, that was Edinburgh Manor. That's actually in Iowa. It used to be a poor farm, and then it turned into an asylum. And that room actually has an elderly lady who she doesn't like people staying in her room that long. And she was pretty much in my face telling me, you need to let this little like whippersnapper know she's staying too long and she's in my space. And that's kind of something, if they tell me, like I say, when I speak for spirit, for, them, I speak for them, it's like, sorry if I hurt your feelings, but this is the truth. She doesn't like you hanging in her, space. She wants to know she's beautiful. Don't touch her stuff. And that's kind of what I told the guest, and they kind of looked at me funny, but I don't know if you've ever felt it, but if I don't say it the way they want me to, it's this nagging feeling that I only get like a lump in my throat, like you're not telling it like I'm telling you to tell it. And so I pretty much had to tell her how it was. So, yeah, I mean, it turned out to be a great evening, but yeah, I pretty much don't have a filter when it comes to that point because they will not leave me alone until I do speak the truth.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Riverside Iowa Paranormal group now. When did you start that?
Started in 2015. Just kind of was a small group and we were just kind of helping people out a little here and there. And then I started growing it more and more in 17 to build different chapters. Everybody's into the paranormal, but everybody was trying to run to all the very big locations, check them out, things like that. They had forgotten there are actually families that are still in need. All spirits don't just hang out at like an Edinburgh Manor. Things do happen because of buildings and stuff that are on certain land. And so started getting too many phone calls that we couldn't just travel everywhere. And so I started getting other chapters involved. So this way, if we did have somebody that needed something on the East Coast or up in Minnesota or over in Arizona, we would have people who would know how to take care of those families in need.
So how many chapters do you have and where are they located?
Let's see. I got to remember them now. I know we have Arizona, Iowa, Indiana, PA, Minnesota, and we're also over in Greece and UK.
Oh.
And so we do a lot of that whole area too.
Do you ever do long distance consulting on cases that they may be working on?
Yes, I do that a lot. I do a lot across the pond. I do a lot of spiritual healing. And like my spiritual healing is not just grabbing some crystals and doing some incense. I do a lot of I'm going to tear you completely apart and make you a shell. And then we rebuild you and, kind of go from there. I forgot a chapter in Texas. I'm sorry. I knew there was another one there somewhere. Sorry, Texas.
Well, I know we've got some people from your group listening right now because they're in chat. So we don't want to forget them. Do you use remote viewing when you're working on a case that is, say, a distance case or even one that's nearby?
Yes, I do. I do a lot, especially when doing stuff like in Scotland and stuff. I do remote viewing that way too, to kind of get the gist, because when somebody's having a lot of issues in their home, when they finally get someone on the phone, it's like everything just gets puked out, and so they're talking so fast and you're trying to put that puzzle together, like where did it start, what happened, and kind of get an idea of what's going on. So then I end up doing that remote viewing. Catherine, who takes care of our Greece and UK, she normally will go in with me. So if she does it more, one of us stands behind. So we like protect each other as we're doing it. I'm not sure if you do remote viewing too, but it's really nice because when I look in, when I'm doing the remote viewing, I can see where I'm at and people get freaked out. I kind of feel like a stalker or an intruder. But I can also tell if somebody's there with me and I can sense who that person is. And so we kind of do that together, especially if it's something very negative.
Interesting. I teach remote viewing and nice. I have a group who have taken my classes and now we work together on certain projects. So we will all work together at the same time, and it's so interesting. We don't speak to each other while we're doing a Zoom session, but we write everything down that we see, and then we share it, or we have a drawing or something, and it's amazing how accurate the group is and how many things we see that are exactly the same.
And a lot of that has to do with that trust. Because if you trust someone, then you're more open to do that viewing. And that's something when me and her do that, we have the trust to have each other's back. So we do the same. We write it down or we draw it and we speak about it later.
Yeah, and it's good to compare things, because then if you want to zone in on you might want to zone in on something that is showing up for both of you. And that, that's usually something important or something, a key feature.
Oh, yeah.
So that's interesting that you do the same thing. So we are having the XCon, of course, in May.
Yes.
And your group is going to do an investigation at a specific place. Why don't you tell us what that is and why you chose that place?
Well, we are actually going to do it from the Rock Island YMCA. This place is one of those little gems that nobody really knows about. It has all these different layers of things, from getting EVPs to apparitions to what I would call, I guess, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, happy ending, because it was there for soldiers, during World War II, where they were able to stay free. So they had dances there for them. Then it was a place where people could be, sheltered from out the storm. But then it also has a very dark side. It has a strong link to mob activity. Because we've seen different mobsters and, kept getting something about Al Capone, found out not even 10 blocks from there, Al Capone used to come over. And there was an elderly lady that lived there that she would give him tea and little cakes and stuff like that when he came to do business there in Illinois. It is right by the waterway. So, you cross a big bridge to get over there. We started noticing that people were like tied up down in the basement area, mainly women, getting drifters, things like that. And there was a huge brothel that was also there. So, everybody thinks the YMCA, we're thinking boys clubs, swimming pools, things like that. Yes, they had it. But at the same time, there was so many other layers in this one building that, people don't even realize. And the first floor right now is actually a furniture store. So you can go buy your furniture and get your ghost on all at the same time.
How convenient. So how old is that building?
So I am excited to do that.
We're excited too. And do you know how old the building is?
I want to say it's from the 1800s. And I know Candy is on, so she might be able to give you the exact date because she did do some history from behind it. But I want to say it goes back that far.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a comment from someone in your group. Rock Island YMCA was not only a YMCA, but was a brothel, speakeasy, has ties to the mob, and housed a murderer.
Yes.
Who's the murderer?
Well, I do know it was a gentleman who ended up killing another gentleman over a pack of cigarettes and some money. I end up channeling him while I was at the Y because he was trying to, our camera guy kept showing that he had his hands around his neck. And so I had to call him into me to get what he needed out. Now, we do have that on YouTube, but we have it for over 18 because the language that came out is not very appropriate. That's why we didn't share it tonight, because it is pretty raw.
Okay, well, that's a good thing we didn't share that tonight.
No, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, well, we've got a whole lot of comments in here. I've got one from Joshua Benjamin. He says, so what gender are demons? Are they all in-laws and ex-wives?
Demons can be whatever you make them. Demons were never, human. So there is no gender. A lot of people, if you want to go on the biblical side, demons were fallen angels. They never looked at each other as one male, one female. They're all as one entity. But different religions have different ways of actually 1912. There we go.
Yep. 1912.
Every religion might have one that's more depicted of a female. We as, men who rewrote certain books, we gave gender to a lot of demons and to all different things. So when I see negative energy and it forms as demons, I see them. Have you ever watched the movie Alien?
Oh, yes.
The original Alien.
Times.
I see them like that, or I see them as crawlers, half bodies crawling and stuff, really creepy, black. So there's really no gender to me at that point. All I see is what they're bringing in, and that's what I go with. But could be an in-law, ex-wives, not really sure.
I think that person is joking. Yeah, I had a very strange thing happen to me when I was younger. I was playing in a band, and we were a house band for this one particular place in Kansas City. Played there, every week. And I noticed that the crowd would turn decidedly angry about 3/4 of the way through the evening. And they would start acting up and they would be out of character. And, these were regulars that were in there all the time. And we kind of got to know them. Well, one evening I was playing and I looked across to the bar area and I saw something very, very creepy. On the top row where they kept all of the drinks, on the top shelf were these 3 demon-like looking things with wings. And they're maybe 18 inches or tall or so. And at one time, they all flew across the room and went right into the top of the heads of 3 men. And those 3 men instantly changed their behavior and started acting up and wanting to fight and things like that. Have you ever seen anything like that? Mm-hmm. And I mean, my theory is it was because of the alcohol that opened up their crown chakras. What do you think?
I kind of get that too. I call them little demon cherubs because of the wings, because they're able to jump into people and do things, and stuff like that. I've seen those before. But when we put ourselves open like that, when you start drinking alcohol, you kind of just calm down, things open, you become an open vessel for anything. So yeah, I could see that definitely happening, but I've seen those before and, I've seen them it's really weird when, we talk about these things because people are like, what's going on? And it's like, at first you think maybe it's your brain trying to make these creatures so you can figure it out, but no. I mean, it's kind of one of those, yeah, that stuff's real, and they can jump into anybody, especially when and people are wide open all the time. No one thinks about, hey, I need to, this is my sacred space.
Right. And I've also noticed among people who want to learn more, they want to learn about metaphysics and they want to be, they're just kind of walking around as an open channel.
Yep.
Without learning how to protect themselves. Do you find that a lot as well?
Yes. Especially when I talk to people, a lot of people who are very empathic, those are the ones that become the worst targets, because they don't realize, why am I having mood swings, because they automatically, we want to go to the doctor and we want to figure out, what's going on with me. And the first thing I always do before I do anything, we go through hardcore ways of protecting yourself before we start working on how do we open you up. You're going through an awakening, but you got to learn this piece because this is going to be a train wreck. and you're going to have to get used to it. But you got to protect yourself, and then you'll be able to kind of guide through it. And so that is my big pet peeve with me.
Do you ever recommend that people, say, carry a quartz crystal with them or a dark stone with them at all times?
I do to some. So what I feel like, anything can be a protection, whether it's crystals or whether it's something that you hold dear. Because a lot of people don't realize, I mean, the properties of crystals help us a lot. But sometimes it doesn't help everyone because they think, oh, I'm going to run to the crystal store and I'm going to grab some obsidian and I'm going to be all good. They don't realize yes, you have that property, but you got to put that intention into that property of what do you want it to do for you. But there are some people that, might carry a rosary or something that their grandmother gave them. That's going to protect them just like that obsidian would. Because their intention into that rosary is, this is my protection. And then that's what starts giving that protection and closing off. And I'm not saying don't go out and buy crystals, guys. I'm just saying, it just kind of giving you, because there are some things we hold so dear. And those things that we hold so dear are the ones that will actually give us the protection we really need.
Absolutely. Have you ever run into let's say a sticky situation and you couldn't solve it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's frustrating, isn't it?
Yes. And it haunts me, and no pun intended, but it really does, because you would think there could be a closure and there isn't, and you don't know what to do because it's constantly running you around in circles. And yeah, it keeps me up at night at times. It kind of eats at you, like a real bad nagging feeling.
Well, I've got a question for you about graveyards. A lot of people who are, especially if they're just getting into paranormal, they watch the TV shows, so they think they want to go out and start doing it. The first place they head is a graveyard. Now, is that a good place to go? And why do you think there are spirits there? Why would a spirit hang out around their grave?
Well, I don't do graveyards, period. Too much. It's too much to take in, and you actually become a target. I don't think the graveyards are just the spirits of the people who are there. I believe the land, because of the energy that's been put in and out of those graves, when it has, you got to remember the land's been there longer than the cemetery most likely has at some point. I think we're getting a lot of that other stuff, because there's a lot of times you can walk through a cemetery and see things and go, wait a minute here. This person doesn't seem like it belongs in this area, and when you're not able to navigate. So I just don't think cemeteries are a good place. I really don't. And I think that's supposed to be their resting place anyways, even though I know they're not really there, but it's just the idea of it. So yeah, I don't hang out there. Not even during the day.
I've got a clip here from the place that you are going to be investigating, or your team is going to be investigating, on May 13th, which happens to be a Friday night. So I thought that would be appropriate.
Yes.
Do you have any, let's talk about superstitions for a minute. Do you have any superstitions about Friday the 13th or anything else?
I do not. The crazy thing is I love odd numbers. Odd numbers, I'm drawn to those, which, everybody's always even. No, I like odd numbers. So no, the 13 does not really, I think I feel more energized around those dates, if it's an odd date. But yeah, I think it's just kind of what people take with it. We all have our own ideas with it, I guess.
Okay, I'm going to show this clip now, and then you can talk about it.
Jim, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jim's already asleep.
No, Jim's feeling something.
I keep getting like tingling sensations on my thighs, my groin, my butt, my neck.
Come on, girls. let's get them really working. They don't have time for all the fondling. They have to get back out. So let's get them going. Come on, girls. I need you three to take a nice deep breath because you guys about to go for a ride.
Whoa.
You okay?
Whoa.
Jim, are you okay?
I literally just felt the mattress move, like something sat down.
You just kicked her in the crotch with your knees.
Oh, I'm serious. It's like
I know,
right here
your bed should be moving.
on the left side.
You're good. I'm right here.
That was freaky.
Okay. Now we didn't set that one up, so try to explain what that was.
Well, that would be at that Rock Island YMCA. And again, because of the brothel. And since it is a furniture store, she does have mattresses that are for sale. And when I was walking through there at one time, I'm like, they kept following me around like they were supposed to be doing something. And I had just came up and said, I would like to try an experiment. And so I asked some gentlemen, would they be willing to do this? And didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, as I have them laying on the bed, the women are actually walking out this little doorway into the mattresses, and they go by each bed. And we're putting it in the timeline where they were at. And I just told the guys to take a deep breath. And I just was having them talk to me. I could see what was happening, but I wouldn't say nothing to them. And men have told me they feel like the pressure in, the area moving. One man could feel like cold hands going up and down on the chest. Someone felt kisses and stuff around the ear and, different little things like that. But when they were done, the experiment, I wanted to know exactly what the feeling was. And it wasn't on a sexual side. It was, I wanted to see if it got more deeper and into the emotional or spiritual side. And every one of these guys were like, the feeling was so intense. It was like someone just went inside of them and the intensity of all of it. So it kind of became a thing. The only thing is, I can't really tell the guys what these girls look like because these girls, they were murdered. And so there's certain things that are hanging off of them or things hanging around their neck, but they're feeling everything because they're using their senses and they're feeling. We've had it where we've seen the mattress actually move, and different things like that. May 13th is going to be interesting.
Yes,
you guys all need to tune in.
We just have to keep it R-rated. No
X-rated. It is. No,
yeah.
There won't be X-rated. And that's the thing. They say it's how do you say it? Very erotic, but in more of a sensual, spiritual erotic, not the physical type. Mm-hmm. And that's what really makes that experiment work. So, the men are not just coming off going, phew, that was a great time. It was, they're coming out shaking like what just happened. So
the women who worked in the brothel, were they there of their own accord or were they forced to do that work?
They were forced.
And how did they kidnap these women or what?
Some of them I could tell were pulled off the street, and things like that. Some were older, but, you could tell that they were manhandled the way they were treated and things like that. But this is something that they do all the time. It's almost like intelligent, but residual at the same time. It's very hard to explain because they're waiting. They're wanting them to call them. They want to do this and then they take back off. And so it was kind of like, okay, trying to pass them on does not work. They will not go. That's one of those that
you think they're stuck?
I don't think they're stuck. I think they're stuck themselves. I don't, when you even talk to them and say, you don't have to do this anymore or don't have to do that. They're like, no. And then they go back and it's like they wait.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's sad. But at the same time, they actually get a little aggravated when I walk past certain rooms and they're like, is it time to work? Is it time to work? And I'm just like, yeah, well, if you want to,
Oh my
Again, I
goodness.
speak for the spirits.
Now, I understand that Al Capone hung out there. Have you seen him, his spirit?
No,
Okay.
I have not seen him. There is actually what I call like the cane guy. And he's on the 4th floor, which we'll be doing stuff up there for it on the May 13th. I believe his last name was Mooney, if I'm correct. Correct me, Candy, if you're watching, if that's not it. He was the one that was actually more in charge there in Illinois. So I think he actually had the connection with Capone, and Capone would come to get what he needed. And then there was actually the female who took control of all the women for the brothels, and the ones down in the basement where she had chained up to the bricks. John Looney.
Wow.
That's it.
Thank you.
I always
Candy.
call him Mooney, but yes, it's Looney.
Wow. That there are some places that are extremely active, and then sometimes you find a place that's only periodically active. Why do you think that is?
I think it's whatever energy base is holding up that location. We tell a lot of people when we do our events, these spirits, they do not work on command. They don't get a paycheck, so it's kind of like if they want to communicate, they're going to. I think a lot of them still try to communicate. I think they're there, but sometimes I don't think the energy source is strong enough for them to be able to utilize to make that connection. I don't feel that they're just not there because, I can walk into a place and know there's like all sorts of them there, but I can't guarantee, they're going to make a K2 go off or a REM pod go off or give you
Right.
an EVP because we don't know the strength of what they have to be able to do that. And sometimes it's the location where it's at, and I'm with the weather, certain types of weather will bring that energy source around that ground to bring it, more full force. And the Y sits right by the water.
Oh, well, yes. Let's talk about water for a minute because the water movement kind of creates a portal. It is my opinion. What do you think?
I believe the same thing. Water is straight energy source. And especially with the movement, that's just like, those balls that you can get when you put your hand on, your hair stands up. That's kind of what a water source, I believe, does too, because of a continuous movement. And so it continuously puts that into the ground and to where the locations are around. So even if someone built a brand new house in that area, they will probably have things coming in and out of their home like Grand Central Station because of that. And people are like, well, I just built this house in 2021. Well, you built it on a ground that's been here longer than 2021. So
that might be a good reason for people to think about it when they're thinking about moving near water. You might not want to be right near it.
correct.
You might want to maybe go fishing there, but be far enough away that you're not getting all of that, the energy of that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Michelle, unfortunately, we are just about out of time for this evening. So what is your website address again?
The website is Riverside Iowa Paranormal.org. That's where we have all of our events. That's where our tours are. And also, if anybody is needing help, everything is confidential. We do have some more clips and pictures of some of the things we have done. And you get to also meet all the rest of the team. Everyone has their bios, their pictures. And if you have questions, there's different ways of contacting us right off the website.
All right. So if you need help and you are in one of the areas that are listed there, please contact Riverside Iowa Paranormal and perhaps someone will be able to assist you. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been great talking with you this evening. I think you are a very interesting lady, and I'm sure we're going to be doing some things together in the near future.
Sounds like a plan. I would love to.
I'm looking forward to May 13th.
Me
From
too.
9 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Nice.
So a 3 hour. You are actually the group that has the most time of anyone for this conference. So,
and it definitely won't be disappointed.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining me this evening, and we'll see you here again next week on Unx News.
You've been listening to the Unx News Podcast with Margie K. Any rebroadcast or duplication of this program or its content without express written permission from Unx Media or Margie K. herself is strictly prohibited. The Unx News Podcast, in direct cooperation with the internet website unxmedia.com.